Hello everyone and welcome to my 2025 beginning of the year palette collection. This is not a declutter, so I will not be getting rid of anything. I have several different brands to go over. I have Glamlite, I have Unearthly Cosmetics, Ace Beauté, Fantasy Cosmetica, Nomad, Odens and Cosmic Beauty. And then I do have some other one-offs over in the top. So we will go ahead and get started at looking at them. At the end of the year, I will be doing a declutter, but we are starting the year with 99 palettes. I do have some more coming in from Fantasy Cosmetica, Cosmic Beauty, Unearthly Cosmetics, and the new Nomad palette. So we'll start right in the front. First we have the Fresh Prince from Glamlite, and here is the color story. I have not had a chance to use this, and another thing that I am doing this year is a no palette left behind, where I'm going to go through all of my palettes and use them at least once, so that way at the end of the year when I do my declutter, I'll have a better idea of what I want to keep and what I want to get rid of. We have the Kellogg's Frosted Flakes. I have used this palette before and I do really enjoy it. We have the Dirty Martini. I really liked the drink collection from Glamlite. I wish they would not have discontinued it. I know the Chocolate Martini I have gotten a lot of use out of. So that is that color story. I'm not trying to blind you with the light. Do it like that. The other drink palettes. So here is the Chocolate Martini. Very pretty. We have the Margarita. I don't think I've had a chance to really use this one yet. I know I have swatched some colors. And then the wine, I just used this yesterday. If you're interested in seeing swatches or any looks with a particular palette, just comment below and let me know. And I'll make sure that I get to it. We have the Glamlite, I believe this is the Cupcake palette. This is the only one that doesn't actually say on it. And that is what it looks like. The Garfield, I have seen a lot of people loving the Garfield collection. I personally have not had a chance to use it. And then we have the Coca-Cola. I know a lot of people said this wasn't their best formula. Again, I haven't had a chance to try this. We have the Hershey's Cookies and Cream. I have not tried this one, but I did try the milk chocolate one, and I really like this one. It has Glamlite's amazing formula. Super soft, buttery mattes. The shimmers are spectacular. So those are really nice. I have the Strawberry Shortcake, Berrylicious. We have the Betty Boop with the lenticular motion packaging. This is another one I haven't really gotten the chance to use yet. Again, that's why I'm doing my no palette left behind, so that I can give all of my palettes a little bit of love. This is the Kiss Rock and Roll. I've heard a lot of people were not impressed with this one. They said it wasn't the good formula. So we will see when I try it out. We have the big Scooby-Doo palette. And we have the Rick and Morty palette. This one went viral on TikTok. It sold out and restocked. It has a lot of very pretty shimmers. It's really similar to the Fresh Prince, just on a larger scale. And then we have their smaller 10-pan. If you hear any little grunts, my daughter is over on the side sleeping and eating. So here's the Scooby-Doo. I think I've gotten to use this one once. The Creeps and Crawls. It's very blue and purple. The Nightmare on Elm Street. This is another one where people were not impressed with the formula. It's more dry, harder to blend. I am a huge horror fan, so I love all of the horror stuff. I have all of the horror palettes. And then the Trick or Treat. This one I have used. It's a little bit drier formula, but I love oranges and yellows. I think they just look really good on the eyes. We have the Friday the 13th. This one is similar to the Kiss palette, but I think it's a little bit better formula. We have the Good Guys. And I think that color story is really spot on with the movie and the toy. I have both of the Ghostface palettes. So there's the original, and then there is the return. People were upset that there wasn't reds in the original one, so Glamlite re-released it. And I did check to see that they were different. Not that they just changed a couple of shades. So there's a side-by-side comparison. There are a couple that are similar, but they're not exact. Then we have the Chucky palette. This is a very dark, grungy palette. And then the Halloween. I know they are sneak peeking a new collection that's supposed to come out. There's been speculation that it's Twilight, Vampire Diaries. Let me know what you think. And the most recent release before the new one they're fixing to come out with is the Willy Wonka. I have gotten to use this. It's the better formula that they have. It's kind of a mix between the chocolate martini and the wine palette, but it is the good formula. Next, we have Unearthly Cosmetics. I am waiting for an order from them that has a couple more palettes. It's taking longer than normal because one of the palettes I ordered was on pre-order and I did not realize it. But this is the Lore palette. I didn't think I was a fan of 9-pan shadows until I got my hands on this one. This has made me fall in love with 9 pans. Basilisk shade is so pretty, and the color story just goes together really, really well. The Don't Be Jelly. I have gotten to use all of the Unearthly palettes that I own. All of the formulas are very good. They blend well. The shimmers are impactful. So that is Don't Be Jelly. I know there was an original one. I believe it was a 9-pan palette, and it was all shimmers, and then they redid it. We have the Devour palette. I know Unearthly was having a sale on all of their palettes because they were moving, and they didn't want to take all of the stock with them. Not sure if it's still going on, but it's worth looking at. Leather and Lace. This is a really nice neutral palette. Dead of Night. This one was a little harder for me to work with. I don't know if it was the primer I used or the technique I used, but I did use it multiple times to make sure that it was something I would want to keep at the end of the year. And then we have the Gargoyle palette. This is one of their newer ones. I know they have the 2 new 9 palettes that are supposed to come out, I believe, in March. And I will be picking those up. I just did not want to pre-order them. And then we have some palettes where they're one-offs, where I don't have a lot from the brand, or the brand hasn't released a lot. We have the Too Faced Better Than Chocolate. I have tried using this purple shimmer, and it is a dud. But I am keeping it because I really do like the mattes. As I use it a little bit more, depending on how the other matte shimmers perform, it may be something that I let go of at the end of the year. Too Faced Pumpkin Spice Second Slice. I love this palette. I love the color story. It is amazing. I used this for a Halloween look last year when me and my mom did a Halloween photo shoot, and it turned out beautiful. We have the Tarte Gilded. Trying not to blind everybody. Really good formula. I enjoy these palettes from Tarte. They're the only 2 palettes that I own. This is the Glamour. I have gotten a little bit of use out of these. And then we have the Naked Reloaded. I was not impressed with this formula. Urban Decay does a lot of the same things and just slightly changes the tone. The shimmers are not impactful. They're more like a satin feel, and the colors are just really hard to build and show up on the lids. I have a Kat Von D palette. This is the only one I have. It is very old. It's probably something I will be decluttering at the end of the year because I really don't care for this color story. And then we also have this eyeshadow palette. There's not really a brand that it goes with. It's from the like $5 store. I really wanted to like this palette because it's Nightmare Before Christmas. I'm obsessed with Nightmare Before Christmas. But these were not good at all. The mattes are really hard to build. The shimmers are not impactful. I was hoping that this Mayhem shade would have a better pop of color, and it did not. And it was also really dusty. Like, there was so much kick up in the pan. And then we also have the Naked Urban Decay Heat. Again, not super impressed with their formula. Next, I have the Cremated palette from Jeffree Star. This was a gift to me from one of my friends. It's very heavy gray tone and cool toned, I think. I had trouble getting it to blend, but I do like the theme, if that makes sense. Next, I have Galactic Visitor from Singe Beauty. This is Angie or Angelica's brand. I'm a huge fan of her. I've been watching her for years, and I'm really happy to be able to support her with her brand. I love the color story. I've used this a few times. I love watching the looks that she does with it as well. There's so many different ways that you can go with this. You're really not tied down to one or two looks. So I really enjoy this one. Another really great palette, and this was Angelica's #1 palette of 2024, was Harvest of Souls from Fantasy Cosmetica. I do have an order from them, pretty much getting all of their other palettes, except for the Druid palette, because that is sold out currently, and I'm hoping they will do a restock. So I'll do a haul when I get that in. But this color story is absolutely amazing. The quality is amazing. You can mix and match, or you can use it in quads. Their matte and shimmer formula work phenomenally. Poison is such a pretty color, so is Ambition, and I never had any issues with this. I also have Divination from Blend Buddy Cosmetics. I really enjoyed using this. I have used all of the shades, so I was very impressed with the shimmers. I love the way that this palette is laid out. It makes it very easy for beginners. You can still mix and match if you want to, but if you're just not feeling inspired, you want something easy to throw on, I think this palette's really good for that. We also have the Lure palette from Blend Bunny. Again, I love the way that it's laid out. Very easy to use. Blends great. And then I have Cosmic Beauty, or Cosmic Brushes. I know they haven't changed their name on socials like Facebook yet. I have the new one, 'Tis the Season. I do have an order coming from them. Hopefully it arrives sometime today or tomorrow, and I'll do a haul on that too. There will only be 2 that I'm missing that are released at this point, besides the ones that are discontinued, and that was because they were sold out. That would be the Cool Trolls, which they sent out an email today saying that they are getting a restock, but it's going to be a couple of weeks. So 'Tis the Season. I love the color story. Amazing formula, which is why I went and ordered the rest of their palettes. There is the Neutrals. Really nice palette. They do have really pretty multi-chrome or duochromes. And then there is Undergrowth. I want to say this was Angie's rank 2. Very pretty color story. Similar to, I would think, similar to Natasha Denona's Yucca palette, but Cosmic Brushes is way more affordable. I've never tried Natasha Denona, so I can't speak on the formula, but I know a lot of people that have tried it really love it, and a lot of people really liked the Yucca palette. Next, we will go over Ace Beauté. They did or are in the middle of rebranding. So they had a sale on all of their palettes that they had in stock. Most of the palettes were, I believe, $13 to $15, and that's when I picked them up. So it's been within the last 6 months. So this is the Ace Beauté Quintessential. I enjoy this color story. I like it because of the neutrals. It's easy to throw something on, make different looks, and also has pops of color. Next we have Ace Beauté Slice of Paradise. I am not impressed with this palette. The formula is really hard to blend, and I do prefer a matte heavy palette over a shimmer heavy, but there's really only 2 shimmers in here, and it's not something that can easily go with the other colors. Next we have Classical Paradise. I really like this color story. But again, this formula is a little hard to work with. I have set it aside to try and use it some more to see, again, if it was something I did that made it hard or if it's just the palette itself. I know they have other palettes that are actually really easy to use that I haven't had any issues with. Next, we have the Ace Beauté Paradise Fallen. This is one of the better palettes. The formula is easier to blend. I've only gotten to use it once, but I did enjoy the look that I was able to create. The Ace Beauté Flare palette, I really enjoyed this palette. This formula is very easy to use and blend, and you have so many different options on the looks you can make. The Ace Beauté Nostalgia palette. This one was okay. The Oceanic palette. I enjoy the color story of this one, and I think the artwork is beautiful. I think the formula is a little bit harder to use than the other two bigger palettes they have, but I still really enjoyed using it and enjoyed the look that I made with it. And then we have the Ace Beauté Paletopoli. That noise is my daughter. I have not gotten to use this yet, but I have heard a lot of people say that this is a really good quality, and I will be using it soon. Next, we have Nomad. I think I have the majority of the palettes that they have released. I wouldn't say I have all of them. The brand did start before I started collecting and buying from them, but I do really love their formula and their color stories. I love that they don't release palettes back to back to back like some brands do. So this is Paradise Islands. It's very colorful, and typically they do have a very good spread of matte and shimmers. We have the Nomad Orient Express. I know a lot of these palettes have been discontinued at this point, but I like to keep them for reference because there's always maybe a new release that they could have that's similar, or another brand could have a similar color story. I don't believe I have gotten to use this palette yet, but it is very pretty. And then we have the Monteverde palette. One of the things I love about Nomad and why I support them is they always find some kind of charity to donate part of the proceeds to. Now, I have gotten to use this palette. I used it for my baby shower. I did a sunset look for my daughter. And then we have the Morte palette, which is supposed to be like the Romeo and Juliet. I know a lot of people said the formula in this was different than what they normally have. There's a light and a dark. I have not really gotten the chance to play with this much, so I can't give my thoughts on it. I think it's a little big. I don't really like the super big palettes, but I also don't like small palettes like quads or really anything under 9. Not to say I wouldn't try it, but it probably would not be my favorite because you're really limited. Keys Beachy and Peachy. I know a lot of people were not impressed with this one. It is supposed to be kind of a rainbow palette, but the black background kind of takes away from it. Nomad Ireland, Wild Atlantic Way. This is the crushed velvet like the Orient Express was. I do love greens. I think greens complement eyes very well, along with copper colors, orange, yellow. I love how it has the Celtic symbols for Ireland. I think that's pretty cool. And then we have the Nomad Haunted Europe palette. It's one of two of the Halloween palettes that they had. This was a re-release last year, which I was super grateful for, so because I was able to pick it up, and I'm very happy that I was able to. We have the Ghost Town USA. It's another lenticular packaging. I think that Nomad puts a lot of time and effort into not just their packaging, but their shades, names, color stories, everything. So this has, I like the way they also have laid out a lot of their palettes, where it's very easy to just go down the row or column. Same with the shimmers, or you can mix and match. So I really do enjoy that. Next we have the Nomad Polar Express. This was a winter release this year, or the Christmas release. It has, again, a lot of neutral shades. I like that it has the neutral shades and then also a mix of colors with the blues. I did get to try this palette. It did have a very nice smooth formula. So this is why I like to keep a lot of the palettes, just so that I can compare some color stories. Because some people have a fear of missing out on some things when you can come up with something similar. I'm not saying they're exact because they're not, but they could be very similar to make a similar look. We have the Nomad Chicago Speakeasy. Again, this is the crushed velvet with some detailing on it. I loved this palette. They have purples, greens, neutral, this coppery color, this duochrome. I think it is just so pretty. So it's showing up green, but it also changes color. I also went back and bought another one of these for my mom to give it to my mom as a gift. This is the Nomad Fiji palette. Fuji, 5 Lakes. This has like an oil painting feel. It's very different from what they've done before, but it is so pretty. And the color story matches the packaging, and I really love that. Again, they were able to do the color stories, made it easy. You could also change it up a little bit and kind of turn it into quads and make some interesting looks that way too. We have Nomad New Zealand Stargazing. A lot of people really loved this palette. And then we have the Safari. This palette does seem to have the shades harder pressed, but not in a way that makes it unusable. I actually wore this to a wedding last year, and I really loved the look I created. So even though it's a little harder pressed, I can still find it easy to use. It's just not as soft as the other palettes. There is the Nomad Hudson Valley. Love this palette. It is a fall palette, I would say, just from the color stories. Pumpkins, cider, fall festival. I really love yellows, oranges. I think they are so pretty. We have the Nomad Tokyo palette. This is a pastel palette with some shimmers. It really looks like these are satins, and these might be mattes, or they might be satins as well. I haven't really used this a whole lot. I'm not really a pastel person, but I will use it before I determine if I'm going to get rid of it or not. We have the Nomad Whistler Snow Lodge. I want to say this was the winter release, not last year, but the year before, if I remember correctly. Very pretty greens right there. I can say they do a lot of blues, so if you love blue, they are definitely a good brand to go with. Blues and neutrals, I would say. This is the Fetes de Provence. I want to say this is the one where they donated part of the earnings to a bee conservation. I haven't gotten to use this palette yet. It has the similar layout where there's the light shade, the dark shade, and then a shimmer. I enjoy these kinds of layouts as well. If you're interested in any kinds of looks with these, or maybe finding something that is still available, Magica. Very similar to the Provence. Fire and Ice palette. Again, it has the blues, pretty shimmer greens, some oranges. And the last thing I have for Nomad is the Royal Europe. I didn't pick up its color story, is really pretty. I am excited to use this. And then the last thing that we have to go over is Odens Eye. So we will start with the Eternal Twilight palette. This is the biggest palette that Odens Eye has done. If you hear those noises, my daughter is awake. She is just having the time of her life. I haven't gotten to try this palette out yet. I did keep all of the sleeves for these. I don't know why, I just did. So I will start with the different collaborations that they did. I know there's a new one coming out on Friday with Morgan Turner for Valentine's Day, and I do plan on picking up that collaboration as well. So this is with Annette, Mighty Monster palette. And then we have Earthwood palette by, I believe it's Tina the Fancy Face. I will say they do not keep their collaborations for super long, and they typically don't restock them. This is the Spring Dragon by Judy. It's very pastel. It reminds me of Easter when I look at this. And then we have Flora Story, Makeup Just for Fun. I really like this color story, and I have used this before. I think it goes together very well. Bless you! And then we have the Sea Talk palette with Lauren, I want to say it's Lauren May Beauty. That electric kelp color is stunning. And so is the mermaid scale. We have Planet Spirit by Betty Jean, also known as Batty Bean. I love watching her videos and her tutorials. So that is her palette. And then I also have all 3 palettes that Angelica did. So we have Little Ghost palette. I love the artwork. I think whoever did that did an amazing job. Such a nice color story. Pops of color, beautiful shimmers. It goes from light to dark. I think Angelica just does an amazing job with her collabs. And her collabs really are just her aesthetic. Trick or Treat palette. Very pretty colors. I love the greens, the orange. Again, goes from light to dark. I know when she talks about her palettes, she likes to do rows or quadrants, which is really nice. It helps to build a foundation if you're new at using color. Because not all colors go together. And not all formulas blend well either. And then this was her Hella palette. Again, love it. Green, yellow, brown. So pretty. Next we have Soulmane 2 eyeshadow palette. This has a different texture on it. And then here is the color story. It's like a blue, purple, and orange. Oh my goodness. And then we have Soulmane 2 Moonwish. I also picked up the highlighter and blushes that came with this, I believe. We have the Stone and Rock palette. This I have not used yet. It still has a protective thing on it, but the greens look so stunning. Jewels and Gem. Again, it has the protective covering on it. I have not used this yet. And then I believe we have all of the holiday collections. We'll start with the Christmas palette, or Christmas Eve palette, I'm sorry. A lot of people really loved the Christmas Eve and the regular Christmas. So stunning. And the artwork is always amazing. They always do such a great job with artwork. This is the Merry Christmas palette. And then this was not 2024 last year, but 2023 last year. And they re-released it in 2024 along with the Rosy Jingle and Silver Bell palette. These, the Snow Dream and the Reindeer palette, were not as hyped as the Christmas Eve and Merry Christmas palette. And then this year, or last year's, I should say, Rosy Jingle and Silver Bliss, they had a lot of mixed reviews because people did not see it as a Christmas theme, which I think Silver Bliss is Christmas. It just doesn't have any greens. And then the Rosy Jingle is more of a colorful palette. It's really pink and yellow and vibrant. So that is all 99 palettes that I own at this time. At the end of the year, I will be doing a declutter, and we'll let you know how many palettes we end up with at the end of the year. Every single one of these palettes was purchased. Nothing was PR. So I spent my money on every single one of these. So I am a little bit less prone to decluttering, but we will see. Again, if you are interested in a look with any of these palettes, swatches, comment below and let me know. And like any other video, if you like what you see and you want more, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. It's all free to do, and it helps support. I hope everyone has a great day, and I hope to see you next time.